Good evening, Monday evening here in the UK, and we're all in the UK, so we're all on the same time zone. So hopefully, no delay with the audio as I've had previously with people in the US. But we were very lucky with Eric on Sunday. He seemed to be absolutely fine. So we have this evening the first of our Monday mini fests. So we're starting the first one at 7 o'clock in the evening, and then in a fortnight they'll be from 8 o'clock in the morning, talking about ideas, and then working through the whole gamut of the craft of creative writing. And I know some of you have booked already, which is fantastic. So because the lovely moderators didn't get that much of a chance to talk about their own writing last week, I thought we'd give them in theory, the ideal opportunity. But I know some of you know each other and some don't. So you'll be learning new things about each other. Maybe I should say, I did ask in one of the panels last week whether anybody had a party trick. And so maybe we may fill in some time at the end with that. And in the meantime, BB Elsin, if you'd like to kick us off with who you are and what you do.
Good evening. My name's BB Elsin, Beth, and I am the author of a historical fantasy called Heroes and Traitors, which was inspired by the aftermath of the English Civil War. And I've also recently published an anthology of short stories and poetry designed for mindful reading, which I've called Coffee and Commute.
That's great, because it was when we had when we did your spotlight, and I'm hoping David will book his at some point. That was in the works, and it wasn't that long ago. So you've really cracked on with that. That's brilliant.
Yes, yeah, and the publisher was also, well, the assistance with the self-publishing
Right.
was very fast this time. Mm.
And how did you decide to? Because you weren't sure which order to put them in. Did you mix the poetry with the short stories, or?
Yes, yeah. Well, I wanted to put it into themes.
Mhm.
So I because it's a mix of things and designed to be for coffee breaks and train journeys. Um, I did toy with the idea of doing it by length, but I thought no, I'd really much more likely to do it by theme, so people can choose what kind of mood they're in and go looking for something that suits the time slot that they've got.
I think most people don't really pay attention to length these days. We were talking
Mm.
about short stories, and one of their mini fests will be novels versus short stories. I think people now, when they're reading on their Kindle and then like on their phone, they don't notice so much the
Mm.
length of something. It's over when it's over, and then they move on to the next thing.
Novellas have come back into fashion because
Yes, they have.
yeah, you
Mm.
wouldn't buy a paperback of that size, but you would read it on an ebook, on a Kindle.
Mm. So over to you, David. You're
Oh, is that because I interrupted?
No, you were next anyway, because obviously we'll dip into you all in your writing, but that was a handy intro to yourself. If you'd like to.
Well, the first thing I did publish was a novella, The Other Christmas Carol, which was the experiment to see how self-publishing worked. Was to put that through and go through the process with something that I don't want to say didn't matter, but you know what I mean. It's not a novel, so it was an experiment. And then I worked my way through, and I've just published my 16th novel.
Wow.
Which is just astonishing, frankly.
Yeah.
You sort of plug away at something and you don't really pay attention, and then suddenly, for some reason, you're forced to count them, and you go, "Wow,
yeah,
what did I get here?"
No, even though I don't have that many, I have to sort of look at the shelf, and those two are novellas, and that's a novel with Donna's here, with with novellas thereafter. Just letting Donna in. And there we go. That should be with us in a second.
The introduction is being gate crashed.
There we are. Hello.
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 All right. We are recording.
Yeah, that's fine.
We are recording. Okay, great. Fab.
So that's me, and those 16 novels are quite a range. I've got fantasy, comedy, science fiction, a pub crawl, something set in samurai Japan,
right,
cozy mystery.
And are you a full-time author now, David? I know you do. You're involved with other things,
Yes,
but
yes. I mean, I don't think you can spend 9 to 5 days a week writing. Some people do, though, don't
yeah,
they? But I find you get sort of fatigue.
Right.
I was chatting to somebody about doing NaNoWriMo. I attempted NaNoWriMo.
Yeah.
And wrote a novel in a month.
Yeah.
Then had to spend a year rewriting it because it was a disastrous mess. But I found this part of my brain started to hurt, about a centimetre inside just here.
Really?
What my imagination is. At the end of the month, I was just getting fatigue from it.
Wow.
It was quite interesting and quite serious aphasia. So when I was rewriting it, reading through it, it had things like a man walks into a room with a table and a chair, and he sits on the sideboard.
Right.
I'd asked my brain for the word chair.
Right.
The brain was just so tired, it just sort of flicked to the right part of the catalogue. Went, oh, here's a piece of furniture, a sideboard.
Yeah. It's a bit of furniture. Who cares?
Yeah, who cares? Yeah. And they were like, towards the end, particularly, loads of those really obvious ones. If I was trying to find a difficult word, I would get that one. But it was the easy ones that was.
Did you keep some of them to keep a kind of sense of the surreal?
No, I didn't. No, I was back in the day trying to be as accurate and as good a writer as I could be. Would I do it now? No, I probably wouldn't. Might take a bad paragraph and put it on social media and say, can you spot the mistakes here?
Yeah. Well, I did 3. Technically, I did 4 or 5 NaNoWriMos. For those who don't know, it's sadly it's defunct now, but it started about 30 years ago by a San Francisco writing group when the internet was a lot younger, and they wanted to write a novella, at least a short novel in a month, as a challenge to them. And I think they put the results online, and then somebody picked it up, or they picked it up and carried on with that. So my first 2, because I never planned on writing novels, and so my first 2, after Jessica and Hetman Sam, they were NaNoWriMos. And then the next one, they came out about 53,000. And then the following year was 115,640. And that was that one. And then I decided, because I'd go back to short stories, and the next one was a collection of 50,000 words of short stories.
That's my NaNoWriMo. That's 80,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that was your one and only Nano?
Yes, because the length of time to fix it afterwards was too long.
Yeah, it took me a year to do the big one.
Not the efficient way for me anyway to write.
Yeah.
I do agree that you should get the first draft out as quick as you can. But a month is too tight,
right, for
me.
Yeah.
I'd probably got this book finished a lot quicker if I'd spent two months on it, and then it would have been less than a year. It would have been 6 months to rewrite it. Is
that your average, about 2 months, or is that quick still for you?
For a first draft, it's very difficult to say. Because my writing style has changed, and due to the pandemic and starting to do a trilogy with a co-writer, I've had a lot of books on the conveyor belt at the same time.
Right.
So the one I'm writing the first draft of now, I started 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But that's because other things interrupted it.
Right.
So how long do I take to write a novel? I don't think that's a question I can answer.
How long is it?
It's too confusing.
Well, Denise, your latest 2 seem to have come pretty quickly, because I think the first one was in the works when I've known you anyway, but from your Chiltern Quarterly, Crime Quarterly, I think when I was there the first time, you were in the process of writing that one. And then next thing I know, you've got your second one out.
Yes, it's part of a plan actually. My cozy crime, I'm trying to turn out a series of 10 and not flog myself to death trying to pitch them and promote them. I'm hoping to present them to a local TV company and say, please make a series of this because it's what they do. They're based at Pinewood down the road.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, Denham, isn't it?
sorry?
Denham Way, is it that way?
Yes, well, yeah, just across, well, Ivor Heath. So effectively, I've written 18 novels now and got about 5 or 6 more that are partly written, plus a lot more planned out. But my first 6 really were they were espionage novels. As a former intelligence analyst, I like writing in the world of intelligence. And they were doing really well. I got Shearwater Point, got to Amazon #1 and won a couple of Readers' Awards. And then I got a contract from Spellbound Publishing and they published the next 2. One got to Amazon #1 and one to #2. So I was quite pleased with those. I also write true crime. I've got a number of those and I try to pop them in for the True Crime Awards every year. And the first 2 were shortlisted. And the second one being runner-up in the Book of the Year award. So I've lobbed another one in for this year to see if I can make it a hat trick.
Yeah.
One of them is about the victims of an American serial sex killer who is credited with killing 22 victims, but by my reckoning, it's at least twice that number. And the only one for whose murder he was convicted and hanged was my ancestor in Canada. So that's a project close to my heart. But then, as you say, yes, I went on to the cozy crime. I'm designing my own covers at the moment because the thing with cozy crime covers is they tend not to be graphic, with sort of dead bodies and dismembered limbs and things. They
Yeah.
tend to be sort of cutesy little drawings of people shooting or what have you.
Yeah.
And the reason I did that was because, or the reason I got into cozy crime, I joined the U3A and I've been in several groups of the U3A and it's tremendous. I've made lots of really good friends. And I'm currently in a group which is the family history group. Prior to that, it was the local history group. But the interesting thing is there are so many really clever people in there, really excellent researchers. And I always reckon that they could solve a murder standing on their heads. So effectively, I decided to use them as the inspiration, and they've all recognised themselves in the book. I've changed all the names to spare the blushes, but my series is called The Misborn Murder Mysteries, and it's about a group of third agers, i.e. members of the U3A, who solve local murders and local crimes, much to the chagrin of the local head of CID, who'd probably rather they didn't and just went to the knit and natter group and, didn't get involved. But it's been lovely because the books are selling like mad here in the Chalfonts because that's where they're set.
Right.
And as I say, if I can get Bentley Productions, who make Midsummer Murders in this area, if I could get them to take this series up, that would be nice. So that's what I'm really doing at present, whilst keeping the true crime research going.
And this is a very broad question, but do you find writing true crime easier than the fiction because you've got all the facts to hand? Or do you find there's so much to know, so it's actually more difficult because you've got too much to fit in one book?
I think I probably do find it easier, and I find it very rewarding because at heart I'm a researcher. I just love digging and diving and, investigate. I was an investigator. I was a prosecutor. I've done a few bits and pieces in enforcement, but I do love the true crime because, for example, when I was researching the victims of the American serial killer who, went on the rampage across America, I discovered this incredibly useful site. It's called genealogybank.com.
Okay.
And it has all of the American and a lot of Canadian press articles on there going back a long way. It's also got all kinds of documents like the American censuses for every year. And it was really, really useful. So I was able to do a phenomenal amount of research. The only thing was I thought it was a bit pricey. and they gave you a 2-week free trial. So with working 16 hours a day at least, I was able to get all my research done without paying for it.
Yeah.
I know that makes me sound really tight,
Mm.
but everybody likes a bargain, don't we?
Well, absolutely. And we're not the richest of species.
No, absolutely not. No, not when you see the royalties I got from Spellbound.
Oh.
They wouldn't cover the ink.
Did they help you with the marketing? Because I know quite often
No,
because,
not in any way, shape, or form. No. They said that they would. They had blog tours planned. They would do that, and they would pay for Amazon ads and everything. None of that happened. I did it all myself, and that's how I got them to numbers 1 and 2 in their bestseller list. But it took a hell of a lot of work. It took, I managed to get them to organise the free download weekend, for example, and I spent a week blitzing details of that all over the internet, and I got a lot of interest that way. And then the sales really took off. But I had to do it absolutely all myself, despite what the contract said. The contract was for a further 6 books, but that's not going to happen. They've just, as you know, given up.
Yes. I'd love you to be in the marketing mini fest towards the end. I think that's the middle of May. Dare I ask which social media platform is most useful for you?
Well, probably I would say Facebook to kick off with, because there are so many. For example, there are loads of groups of cozy crime readers on there, so you can actually focus, and target the right sort of groups. It helps that I've got over 1,000 U3A friends on there, and best part of 1,000 former immigration service personnel, and as well as family and friends and people that buy your book because they know you. Facebook's pretty good.
People think that they are a particular character.
Well, that was a funny thing. Was it Jilly Cooper who said, because she writes about a lot of ladies that might be described with the B word, and she said they don't recognise themselves because she just changes the name and the hair colour. And all their friends know it's them that it's based on, but they don't know. No. So that's kind of fun. But
they'd be horrified if they thought that they were actually based on them. Of course, because they're nothing like that.
They'd be former friends. But there's a very wonderful chap was in my U3A group. He's called Dave, but in the book he's Tom. And I made him a retired fireman because that gave him a bit of brawn, because all the other U3A third agers are actually ladies. And he was delighted with it. He buys all my books, and he's had to move away to Yorkshire, but he comes back to the Chalfonts twice a year. And our group meets up with him, and he says, what am I going to be up to next?
I have heard of authors who give individuals the chance to bid to be a character in their books. I think possibly this, is it the guy who was on Pointless and does
Richard Osman.
Richard Osman.
And I think it was in one of his books I saw that he had for charity, people bid to have their real name, as one of the characters in the books.
Good idea.
I've appeared in some colleagues' books, and they've appeared in mine.
As you, or names changed to protect the innocent?
No,
well, not so innocent.
Name the same, but job different.
Okay.
So I've been a policeman, and I've been an assassin. So quite a range. Really.
Yeah.
And I've popped a few people in that I know in books.
Yeah.
I think it's important to put people in, but don't give them the real names. Change them.
Yeah.
In my book,
you're going to do horrible things.
People recognise certain characteristics. My staff who used to work for me over 14 odd years. Is that me? Is that me? And I went, not exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we all get characteristics, don't we?
Yeah.
My latest lady who was
I'm inspired by particular historical characters, but the beauty of fantasy is that you can just mix everything up and just start with that character in your head, but because of the scenarios, different things happen to them.
I think places is important.
Artificial world.
So I was going to say places are important as well. I changed the names of local places. So, for example, I'm setting things in Chalfont St Peter, but I call it Chalfont St George. And down the road is Chalfont St Giles, which in my book is Chalfont St Michael. And I learnt that lesson from Robert Thorogood because he set, the Marlow murder mysteries. He sets them in his hometown of Marlow. And he said that in one of his books, he has the three ladies rushing out of the church, turning left onto such and such a lane. And of course, he got hundreds of people getting in touch saying, you turn right out of the church to get to that lane. What's the matter with you?
Yeah.
And so I thought, I moved buildings around. I've switched churches over because St Giles, don't tell them they've got the nicer church than we have. So I've stolen that and moved it to Chalfont St George. And I think that's good. So that saves a lot of aggro.
Well, I did, for the first two novels, I chose fictional villages, but they were they were between Milton Keynes and Northampton. And then for the serial data, I set that all around Northampton, which I thought would be a good marketing ploy. And it was fine. It was handy actually having these, because I have her going all the way around the town to 31 different locations on 31 dates in the month. But then when I spent a year, David was saying earlier on that write the book in a month and then spend a year editing it, there was a particular bar that kept closing and opening as something else. And I got to a point where okay, I'm going to call it that and stick with it, and I had a list of locations, and they're never going to stay the same forever.
I had the same thing. I've got Dawn and Day of the Dead is a journey from where I live, nearby where I live, into town. And I set a lot of it in a particular shop in the centre of New Street Station, which of course closed and became something else.
Right.
And I went in, I was very disappointed. I thought, well, I'm just not going to change it.
No, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I had that problem. Our favourite cafe here in the village was a lovely Portuguese little cafe called the Madeira. And we'd lived in Portugal for 4 years and got used to a particular brand of coffee they serve in cafes there. And the Portuguese choose their cafes according to the brand of coffee, and so we did as well. We came back home, and to our delight, they'd opened this Portuguese cafe serving our particular favourite brand of coffee.
Oh, wow.
So for the past 17 years it's been there, and I've changed its name in the book. It's where my third ages meet, and I've called it Café Funchal, Funchal being the capital of Madeira. And they've only just gone and sold it, and now it's got the ridiculous name of Lunch and Nunch. I've no idea why. My next door neighbour owns it now. So I think, well, I'll keep going with the Funchal because, I liked it.
Yeah, it's connected. So Donna, for your books, do you choose, first of all, welcome, introduce yourself. We'll talk about the location and then elaborate on your book. So Peter Markham's book, what did you...
So I've said it in Dunstable, but been kind of loose with locations. So some of them are real. I've used Dunstable Police Station, which I think, although it's still there, is pretty much sort of decorative. I don't think they have the powers and stuff, really. I know it's all based in Luton now, really. Although Dunstable and Luton are different councils, so I'm not really sure. But there's some real locations. What did I use? The church, obviously, in Dunstable is our biggest thing, so that had to be there. And also, I think it helps if people do know the area to kind of locate where in the story stuff's happening. But yeah, I have very loosely used some. Yeah.
Do tell us more about your book, because you don't just have one now, but start at the beginning.
So I also done NaNoWriMo back in 2021, and my goodness, the editing after that. Yeah, but anyway, so it became The Disappearance of Peter Markham, which is crime fiction. I always say, because it's the truth, that I wrote a book because I wanted to kill someone who'd wronged me in my past. So that's what I did. Nearly 10 years ago to the day, actually. I think it was the 12th or 13th of February in 2016. I was unfairly fired from a job. And the guy that done that is Peter Markham, aka Peter something.
Right.
because I needed to keep his real name to make it, you know, more real for me.
Sure.
And he goes
I-
through a bad time, a
I
really
like
bad time.
I like that you kept his first name, because every
I
time
had
you write
to,
Peter,
yeah,
you can. Yes.
yes.
Well, I had a neighbour who he hasn't appeared in a novel, a former neighbour. I moved, and he's appeared in as a shopkeeper in various short stories and had horrible things happen to him. So every time I need a shopkeeper and do nasty things to them, that's my former neighbour. But you write horror as well.
Yeah, kind of. I didn't really. I mean, the real truth of how I started writing. There's a sort of an indie author that a lot of people who know that I won't name. I kind of joined their group or their publishers, and then me and my friend decided to join them in writing a YA horror. In kind of the style of the old point horror stories.
Oh yes.
So that's how we started, but then it went wrong, as most of the stuff in my life does.
Oh.
And that's still sitting on my laptop. And eventually I will edit it and get it out because I quite like the story, but it does need working on, but, you know, time.
Yes. No, exactly. You're always so busy. And which random question, which, because I see you on online all the time, which platform, because you're quite heavily TikTok, which I'm really not. I think I've joined in August 2024, put one post up. At the time I had 21 spotlights. I've just done my 59th. And so I 2 weeks before last Sunday's festival, I thought I'd better start advertising and get back on TikTok. So I did a little video, and I think I've done 2 or 3 since then, and that's about it. But it seems, I know you find recording short videos quite therapeutic. Is it a good platform for you as an author, TikTok?
No, not really.
Okay. The whole
I
book
mean, I
talk.
find,
I kind of heard of, book talk.
yeah. So my kind of, I mean, I don't make New Year's resolutions. I don't really believe in them. But one of the things in the new year, I decided that I was going to try and use TikTok more, especially for my books, which is why I've been doing the short videos, and then you can share them on Instagram as well. But actually well, most people will realise that I had a little bit of not a strop exactly, but the fact that people weren't sharing, especially people that supposedly friends. But anyway, I do generally find Facebook the best. I've been on it since nearly the beginning, I think. So it's just the one I'm most comfortable with. But I'm trying really hard with TikTok this year.
Right. Because I think Facebook, I won't go into marketing, we can do that in another session, but I think there are phases, not phases isn't the right word, but I think Snapchat was really big with a certain demographic, and Facebook is now for people, I won't say our age, Donna, because you're a lot younger than me, but your age upwards, and Instagram, and it's so time consuming, isn't it, being on everything? And
Yeah.
if you just do one, I posted for the first time today about tonight in Twitter on X, for the first time in probably about a year, and it's just it. I used to be on it all the time, and I think you have to either dedicate to one or two and be on there a lot, or do one a week on everything and hope that people see you.
I went to a panel discussion on marketing at an SF convention, and they spent an hour going through TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And right at the very end, someone at the back put their hand up to ask a question. I said, well, does that leave you any time for writing?
Yeah.
And the whole panel went, no, not really.
No, no, exactly. No, I mean, Lee is everywhere. I hashtagged in Twitter. I did a nerdy Excel spreadsheet, which I love. Tell me to do something, and it ends up being a nerdy Excel spreadsheet. So I was doing and because I got sin binned for Facebook, and just before the festival, I got banned for a week. And so I'm trying to do different versions of the same kind of post and put them in cells on Facebook, and so I can keep track of which group I post in when, and so on and so forth. Of course, that takes no time at all. And then I did hashtag Lee Benson, and I was given about 20 or 30 different options. Hashtag Lee Benson author, hashtag Lee something Benson something else. So are you everywhere, Lee?
Well, I know there's Lee. First of all, I banned Facebook when I had my art gallery because everyone was using it for just chatting, and now
Yeah.
obviously we use it as a trying to promote stuff. But I have Lee's art because I'm a watercolorist, Lee's
Right.
books, which is on Facebook.
Uh-huh.
On Instagram, there's Lee Benson author, there's Lee Benson, and there's also Lee Hemingway because my daughter said you have to have a separate Lee Hemingway because it's your name. So that's those
Yes.
three. I have
Yeah.
Twitter, well, X, which is the gallery originally, or it's Lee Benson's gallery, formerly number 9. Lee
Right.
Benson, Lee as in my Black Country Radio one. Then there's Threads and there's Blue, and they just drive me mental. I'm just thinking, what am I giving up? Because I do play the piano, I do paint watercolors, I do write, and writing has really taken the forefront this last year.
Mm.
Definitely. And like November, December, January, I've been writing solidly. And I
Mm.
have to consolidate because I get confused. I think it's all a good idea. You separate all your ideas, but in the end, if you add up all the people I've got following me on
Mm.
3 or 4 different accounts, there's 5, 6, 7,000, which is quite a lot. Separated
Yeah.
down to 1,500, 900. Oh, I
Yeah.
forget. Then of course is my children's author, which is Henry Egg. He's got
Right.
two things, and I've lost one on Twitter because I can't remember the password.
Well,
So it's all a little bit. It's all
yeah.
it's all getting a bit too much. And
Um,
I'm not sure they really do work. People like it because in lockdown, I wrote, I read a chapter a day of my novels outside, which was, if you think if I'd done it properly, 63 chapters, and
yeah.
you're reading every single one, I should have done it properly in the studio. I
Right.
also played piano every day, so I played different tunes every day. And
Right.
there, up there, oh, I forgot that, YouTube.
Right.
And then of course the new one is the podcast, which is Spotify, because when I've interviewed my authors, I put a spot podcast up, and it's generically growing. And the whole point why you want it to grow is that people will find you and go, oh, he writes, oh, I like his books, I'll buy his books. That's
Yeah.
ultimately what it's all about, but it is
Yeah.
exhausting.
But it's engagement as well. I mean, I've had a blog since 2012, I think, maybe longer than that, and I have over 1,000 subscribers. I don't know whether that's good or not, but it's been over the years. And I have one person when I post the word count, whether it's just not of interest to people, word count Wednesday on a Wednesday. I have one, Jackie Lambert, who Denise interviewed the other day. And she's the only person who religiously every week, unless she's literally in outer Mongolia, she will always like and comment. And then I get the occasional likes, but not a lot. And I must admit, I don't post. There's a Sunday random prompt. So there's a picture and a random word prompt. And so I only blog twice a week. And it doesn't take a huge amount of time. It's all in a template, and then I add the relevant bits.
My new
But I
website
think,
automatically goes to Instagram. It goes up on the same thing, so you don't have to do it twice.
yeah,
So that's both blog and Instagram goes there automatically now.
yeah.
But it's an
Well, I
effort.
think, yeah, it's engagement. If you do all this and you get nothing, but do you know if you get nothing back? I may have 1,000 people enjoying what I'm doing, but then if unless they tell me, it's a bit like book reviews. You put your book up and you might get a 1 star, but they don't tell you why they don't like it, or a 5 star, but they don't tell you why they like it.
I think if you've got to
It-
waste all the time going and looking for that, you're wasting your time not writing. So
yes,
leave it for other people and just
yeah. No,
don't care.
I don't read
Don't
my
get me
reviews.
wrongly, but they don't care. As long
No.
as it goes out. I did get somebody in Hong Kong actually say to me, would I mind playing this tune? Because they like the style of my piano playing. And I didn't even know what it was, but I went and found it. He went, oh, I'm ever so grateful. Never heard from him again, but
Right.
somebody was happy and somebody with
Yeah,
a book was happy. And I'm doing now the modern ones is trying to find as many book readers, not authors, book readers, and say, here you go, and you're joining. Oh, thanks for following. Then you suddenly find you've got 20 people waving at you you've never met before, because that's their method of saying, I'm now following you, you've got to follow me. But amongst all that, I don't know whether you get it, there's so much crappy porn and stuff. Not just
right.
low grade sort of people. Do you want to see my naked pictures?
Yeah,
Not really.
yeah.
I'm
A
not
lot of that.
interested.
A
I'd
lot
rather
of
see
that.
your begonias, but ugh.
a lot on there on Facebook. It all means that we need mindfulness, and we have a question from Helen Beth in the chat. I'm intrigued by the concept of mindful reading, and I hope Beth will tell us more about that.
Yes, well, I wasn't quite sure when I launched my novel how easy a read it would be for anybody. I wrote it for myself. And so, it's not cozy. It is a challenging read. One reviewer said it refuses to tell you what to think, but it leaves you thinking. So, and I kind of, in trying to work out where my niche was, came across mindful reading. And it's a sort of branch of mindfulness. Mindfulness is something that you can do on a walk. Some people are good at meditating, but I read some fairly convincing research that if you're not good at meditating, and of course, for a lot of people, particularly trying it on their own, just with instructions from a book, it is difficult. So reading can produce a similar effect on the brain, but it's not reading that you are skeltering through a news report or scrolling on your phone. It's the kind of reading where you're appreciating words, you're appreciating meaning in the words, and so I started digging into it, and I thought to myself, well, I could, because it's the National Year of Reading, I could gather together some of my short stuff, which is everything from haiku to 3,000 word short stories, and try and make a collection of that with some kind of pointers to how you could read it mindfully. So that's what I've done. It's a bit of an experiment, but hopefully some people will get some use out of it.
David, have you written non-fiction?
Yes.
I'm not calling yours, Beth, non-fiction particularly.
I've written a book publishing on exactly why you should self-publish and how to go about it.
Okay.
Co-written with Andy Conway. And it's a guide to how to do it. When we were writing this, we gave it to somebody to beta read. And they said, oh, I've got a book I could put out. And she managed to get her book out using our guide faster than we got her own book out.
Oh.
It's a good book, though.
But about a different topic, presumably. She just that helped her.
It was a fiction book.
Yeah.
It was an educational fiction book.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is my non-fiction. And yeah, we've got 2 editions. We probably need to bring out another one up to date with all the AI stuff going on. But yeah,
dare we get onto that topic?
Oh, rather.
Do any of you, Lee? We'll come to you first. Do you use anything AI related for your covers? Because I mean, there has to be some element. Because when we're going to something like Canva or although I have noticed, because I get the pictures for the Sunday prompt from a free site called Pixabay, Pixabay, and I've noticed whether this is a requirement that when I put in random or go to the home screen, a lot of random pictures on the home screen, that it looks like some AI is obvious and a lot isn't. But I've noticed that it's obvious that it's AI and I've downloaded the picture, it says AI generated and then a code, because they all have code numbers, rather than a description. It says AI generated. But it's not a field I would want to. There's so a lot of up in the air about the whole issue.
All my children's books have had covers which have got illustrations done by the artists. All my poetry books were nearly all my own photography on the front, and then just had fonts put on it. My art gallery stories, which was, oh, does it come out? There we are. That was actually a painting of one of my lovely artists, and I said, please, can I put it on the front? And I actually photoshopped and put the frame around it, so it is the whole thing, which you can't do. And this was actually designed by Ramanil, which you can see up there, was designed by a book cover person. And again, not AI, actually spoke that I want this there, I want that there. So to me, you're going to be putting people out of business. I know AI is very good and we can say and all this sort of stuff, etc. But how can I, having had an art gallery, want to get rid of everybody and say we're going to do the whole thing artificially?
I started off as a software engineer, and obviously did a course in artificial intelligence way back in the day. I'm a science fiction writer primarily, so I'm very interested in artificial intelligence, and I'm utterly against it in the arts. The whole point of being a human being is that you express yourself as part of a sort of communication, a social contract between an author, an artist, or whoever, and the reader or the viewer. That's part of being a human being, is we interact with one another.
Absolutely.
Like we are now. So to replace that with artificial intelligence so that we can then go and, I don't know what, clean the computers, is what on earth are we doing? We need to decide.
Can we stop using this word artificial intelligence? It's a man-made program that can think very quickly. Well, but it's not artificial at all. It's there.
It's certainly there. No, it's artificial in the sense that somebody built it. It's not intelligence, though.
Exactly.
Quite a lot of them are just coming up with
all the information.
Next word.
Yeah.
So they're not sentient beings. But the whole point of being a human being is we want to stop doing the drudge work so that we can all become artists and authors and readers.
Aren't they fantastic? Because I have an electronic friend. I have switched her off, and more often than not, she'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't help you with that." So I end up going to Google or Wikipedia anyway. But there are certain little questions. Yeah, there are certain questions that it's just so much quicker. And I'm sure, Denise, with your non-fiction especially, you have various sites you use for researching, that it just makes life so much easier having a tool to do it.
I've really taken against AI because whatever it is, Copilot or whatever, that keeps interfering when I'm researching. Because what was it I was looking at? Oh yeah, I was just doing a bit of research because I'm into local history. I write some local history books as well. But basically, I wanted to, stop me if I've told you this story, I wanted to find out where the Victorian lockup had been in our village. And I'd read somewhere that people refer to it as, I've completely forgotten, what do they call? There's a word for prisons, isn't there? Named after a famous one that was in.
Oh, not the Irish. Is it Gaol? G-A-L?
No, it was. Oh God.
I think.
No. There was a famous prison in London.
Helen's put Bridewell in this chat.
Bridewell, that's the one. Thanks, David.
Helen.
Oh, no,
and I basically, said, where was the lockup? I asked AI, where was the lockup in Chalfont St Peter, or where was the Bridewell? And it came back and it said, Bridewell is the name of Chalfont St Peter's football team. And I thought, well, I've never heard that. I said it was Chalfont St Peter FC or whatever. So I then went in and said, why is Chalfont St Peter's football team called the Bridewell? And it came back and said, Chalfont St Peter's football team is not called the Bridewell, you stupid person.
Contradicting itself.
Yeah, and I thought, what's the point in using this when it gets itself wrong? Anyway, that's a long-winded story.
It used to be you have to check what you read on the internet. Right? This thing is on top of the internet, so you've got to check that as well. So there's like two layers of checking you now have to do. Is the AI right? Is the internet is based on right?
And don't always trust Wikipedia, please. It's not correct.
I like it, that one. Wikipedia is a lot more accurate than the rumours say, that the jokes say it is. Yeah. But you've still got to check it.
Yeah.
See, the lovely thing about writing children's books is you make up the whole thing. Your rules, you want to do what you want to do. The only thing you're sort of governed with is age groups. And seeing as I'm a big kid myself, my children's books have always been me, and I realise it's taken me a fair number of books to realise that I am all the characters in the book, or something has happened to me to make the children's story come out. And my art gallery books are me, but there's no name. You do not know the person. And I've sort of moved the location a bit, which is becoming good fun. And I've suddenly realized that all my life I've done an awful lot. So I have a lot of research called living, which I'm putting into my future books. And I'm not using history. I'm using Lee Benson's book of life to draw on other mad stories, and seem to have done quite a bit really without thinking I've done anything. Does that make sense?
Has anybody else considered writing for children, whether they have them or not? No.
You don't have to have children to write children's books.
No.
You
Well,
do
I
have to be
write
a big kid to understand it.
children's stories.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, how many people write a book about an egg that goes on an adventure?
I've written a book that's like a children's book, but it's not for children.
Okay.
It's a
Intriguing.
children's sort of style early on, but it gets dark later.
Oh, for adult children, for Lee.
Adult children, yeah.
Yes.
Not too scary, I hope. I got told off by my 35-year-old daughter because I'm working on my my book 4 of my art trilogy. I wrote 3 books called "You Want to Own the Gallery," "You Close Your Gallery," and "Now You're the Artist." Became No Naked Walls. But this one has been in my head more or less at the beginning, before any of these books were written, and so it's coming out now, and it all takes place in the Caribbean because I've been there 3 or 4 times, different places, creating the whole thing. But going back to the children's one, you know, when you go walking and it rains and it stops raining, and the inner kid inside you wants to splash in the puddles. Of course, what do? You have to wear Wellington boots. Well, I'm writing a book called The Puddle Monsters, where the puddles are the monsters, not puddle monsters, which you can draw images. The actual puddles are the monsters. And my daughter came back to me and said, "Dad, that's too scary." And I went, "Oh, good." But I will, because it didn't have a happy ending. You can't have a kid's story without something going there. And I'm going, oh, so I'm finishing this one. In the back of my mind, it's still thinking that's got to go.
Adult.
As is Ramonel, which is my first novella alien crime story. And I've half written book 2, and I had to put it all down because you really got to concentrate on finishing this. And I realized I cannot do all these things like my social medias. You got to focus on one thing and get that finished, then the next, and then other ideas keep. Then I'll just shut up and go play the piano.
Helen, we've got another question from Helen. Some authors, herself included, produce discussion notes about their books for book clubs. Do any of you do that? I think Beth has. I've provided questions for the pieces in the anthology, but I didn't do that for my novel. I will do it for the sequel. It's not something I've thought about. I did do for, I think it was after Jessica Hitman Sam, a U3A actually in Wellingborough. Bought those, bought however many copies, a dozen copies for, it was quite a small group in Wellingborough. And I had to go in and then sit while they dissected it, which was interesting. And then they asked me questions afterwards.
I'd like to do that.
It's interesting.
I submitted a novel when I was doing an MA in writing, and you had to write an essay based upon how you went about it and why you wrote it in the certain way you did, which was quite a number of thousand words. That's not the same though, because it's not reaching a public, is it? It's just for me and the people who are marking it.
Would you, have you,
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask a question?
Yes,
do you all enjoy reading out loud to people? Do you like performing your work?
I have done it. I mean, I wouldn't say I particularly like it, but I mean, it's fine. If people ask to have, in the cases I've done it, it's normally been a short story.
Donna, you've done library talks, because I came to yours in that was Dunstable, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. How do you feel about speaking in? Because it's different when it's our own things. I think when you're working and you have to address an audience, it's different. But do you have to sort of put on a bit of a shell to then almost pretend you're reading something else, not something you've created?
yeah, it's it's a completely different thing when it's people you know as well. Because I done the spotlight at Bloody Scotland, which was terrifying because that was an absolutely packed room. I think it was 500-600 people.
Wow.
And yet talking in front of the 15 odd people at Dunstable Library was just as scary because I knew about 13 of them, I think, because I think 2 of them were strangers.
Yeah.
So yeah, completely different. And I've also at Milton Keynes, I read there, but there was no one in the audience, so that was fine.
Okay.
So yeah.
Isn't that more scary when there's nobody there? Because it's like, what if somebody comes in? That to me would be more petrifying, having one person
Well,
or no
the guy
person
that
than
was
having a room full.
the guy that was emceeing it enjoyed it, so that it's fine.
It's all good practice, isn't it? Oh, Helen said I used to haunt the Dunstable Library as a kid.
Yeah, it's not there anymore though, Helen. They knocked it down and rebuilt it.
Near Asda, isn't it now?
Yeah, well, that used to be the Queensway Hall where Asda is, and then the library used to be next to it. But now it's much smaller, which is disappointing.
Oh.
Yeah.
I did my first reading was in Chalfont St Peter Library. I was asked to give a little reading, and it was a Saturday morning, and they put some chairs and a little coffee table in front of the crime section, and I sat there and I started doing my reading, and every few minutes some little old lady would come up and say, do you mind shifting? I want to get to the crime books. And it taught me a lesson. Firstly, don't plunk yourself to go a reading in front of the crime section, but it also showed me what a big demand there was for crime and who was reading it. The demographic was mostly ladies over a certain age.
I thought you were going to say a woman kept coming up going, shh, library.
Yes.
Read quieter.
Well, I've been asked where the toilets are. I've had that a couple of times.
When I had an art gallery, someone came up to me once and said, "Could you tell me where the owner is?" And I replied, "He's not in today." It was much easier.
Come on.
David, what's your favourite thing about writing? Your writing life. Let's do the favourites first, and then
the things we hate. We know what the things we hate are going to be, don't we? I think in writing life, it's either when it's really going well, the story is writing itself, as they say, and characters are off doing their own thing, taking you by surprise. That is fantastic when that happens. But I think it's talking to fans. I've been in 1 or 2 conversations with fans that have been just marvelous. I specifically remember in a science fiction convention, we had out for a meal in a restaurant. So there were 20 of us. And I was just close enough to these people who were talking about one of my books, such as I could hear them, but they didn't realise. And they were waxing lyrical about it. It was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. I don't know if any of you know Stephen Booth, but he was, I went to a couple of his talks when I lived up in Northampton, because he's Derbyshire way. And Leicestershire libraries used to have, I think it was at least once a month, they often had writers, Peter James, and local authors as well, really supportive. And he said that he'd been on a train. It was early on in his career. I think he'd only had a couple of books out, and he sat sort of diagonally opposite to a lady who had his book. And he said he couldn't tell from her expression whether she was enjoying it or not liking it. And his stop was coming up, so he's desperate to say something to her. And he said, he said, "Oh, excuse me, but I just thought you might like to know that that's my book." And she said, "Oh, you can have it back. It's horrible."
I did at a convention in the bar, sit opposite. You know how when you've got a circle of people and then people join and the circle gets bigger and bigger? One of those, so the other side of the circle you can't talk to because they're too far away.
Yeah. And
there was a guy right opposite who I didn't know, and he didn't know me, reading one of my books. It was very disturbing because he was reading it very quickly.
Right.
It was like, I wanted to get up and say, "Excuse me, that took me months. Go back to that page, read it properly."
Yeah.
But that was very disturbing. I didn't say anything to him. Perhaps I should have done.
Beth, what's your favourite aspect of your writing life?
Favourite? Well, I relate to what David was saying about the characters. I mean, my characters became my imaginary friends.
Mm.
And so I wanted to keep going for them and I wanted to make things happen for them. And of course, you've got to put difficult stuff in there for the characters, but also to make sure they're okay, really. Um, so um, so that was the bit that kept me going because starting something as huge as a novel, um, when I mean, okay, I've written textbooks in the past, but a novel was quite a different beast, and so I did find it hard to keep up the momentum and listening to people talking about doing a novel in a month. I think to
Right.
myself, good
Oh,
grief.
don't do a novel in a month. It's a daft idea.
You
Unless you
find it, you
enjoy
just
it.
want to get words out.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Um, and I with my novel, which was my first, I did a first draft in about 6 months.
Mm.
But of course, after that, it needed months of editing. I think, didn't somebody say write a novel in a month and spend the next year editing it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
both David and myself, we've
Yeah.
both done that.
Absolutely.
But because you love your characters so much, is this the first in a series? Will you bring them back, or do you
Yes.
think you move on?
Yeah,
Good.
I'm working on a sequel. Not
Mm.
very fast, but I'm working
No,
on it.
no. Lee, how about you? I'm going down from left to right on my screen. What's your favourite aspect of writing, of your writing life? I won't say writing, because for some people it is the writing, but other people it's different.
No, the writing is a way of losing yourself, completely
Mm,
losing yourself. You lose track of time. You write. I write from within the story, be it a children's story or
mm,
my adult book. The things that I find, what is the best, what is the most nerve-wracking is reciting my own poetry, because
okay.
that's as near to my soul as you'll possibly get, even though it's hidden with humor sometimes or whatever.
Mm,
That really is standing in front of people, exposing yourself, and I cannot decide whether that is good or
right.
bad. I just grab it by the balls and
Masochistic.
go with it.
Yeah.
But writing from within and you lose yourself is
Mm,
just wonderful. It is that meditation, it is that mindfulness, because you're not you, you are in a different world, and I absolutely revel it. And when you come back out again, it's like take a breath. I'm back in the real world.
mm,
And there is one part that I want to go back in, but your brain's dead because if I've written something where I've been thrown, as I have done in one of my books, I've been thrown off the cliff. It hurts. And sadly, last week I did actually fall down my flight of stairs, and I thought I must add the aftershock into this part of this chapter because you do get an aftershock if you're a growing up.
mm,
So I have that love of writing from within, and then it stirs a memory, then it's something else goes on. So it's a knock-on effect. And I
mm.
think the writing is a knock-on effect of love. That's the best way I can put it.
Nice. Donna, what's your favourite
Um,
aspect of writing life?
Definitely nothing to do with the writing or the marketing, just being part of the book community. I love every second of it when I go to a festival,
Mm,
or when the chips are down, then they show themselves to be just incredible. And it's absolutely unbelievable. Time and time again as well, not just a one-off, and that's everything. Like, it's mind-blowing sometimes, and it's special. And it took me like 40 odd years to find a group of people that made me feel that way. And yeah, I'll never forget, if ever anything happens, the few years so far. I know hopefully that's never going to change, but yeah, being part of the community is the best thing in the world.
Well, there's something so it is special about writing, and so we get each other. We know what it's like, regardless of what we write. We understand how difficult it is at times and how rewarding it is at times. And I compare the writing industry to or writers to learner drivers. We all started off at some point, and you like to think that people are going to look after you when you've got your L plate on the road. and that people will give you a bit more time and understanding. But it's an amazing industry.
There's a wonderful
It
group of
is.
people in Stafford called Stoke-on-Trent called Tales on the Tuesday. I don't know if you've heard of them, but
Right.
they're worth getting in touch with. And they are the loveliest bunch of people you will ever meet. And we had a book fair in Stourbridge in the brewery. And this lot got a coach and trainer. The whole lot of them came down just to come and say hello, which was really humbling. And then, where's the pub?
Right.
And there is always some benefit, isn't there?
I've got to mention at this point New Street Authors, of which
Yes,
quite a number
do.
of us are members, but that's a collective of independent publishers, self-publishers like ourselves, get together to help one another, with advice and so forth, or just support. You're right, communities is what it's about. It comes back to the AA argument, doesn't it? You write something for somebody to read it. That's trying to create a community. That's a human way of living.
And I think what we write. Oh, Helen said New Street Authors rock. I think what we write helps us as we write it. Whether you're writing poetry from the heart or whether you're killing somebody off. Which I think we've always all done, even if we haven't actually put it in and shared it with anybody. I think there are things. I like the phrase, "Oh, I've read everything you've ever written." Nobody has read everything everybody's ever written, because there are things that won't see light of day, whether we've done it for therapy or otherwise. But I use my 4 E's, which I've mentioned in a number of the spotlights. Is everybody likes to be educated, to learn something new in a piece of work. It doesn't have to be fiction or non-fiction. Feel some emotion, and aren't we pleased when the rotter gets his comeuppance by the end, and we find out who murdered the victim, and then to be entertained along the way, and then feel some sort of escapism, that either somebody is going through what I'm going through, or somebody has had it worse than us. And actually, there is to use Beth's cover, there is a light at the end of the light at the end of the rainbow. That doesn't work, but
pot of gold at the end.
Gold. Yes,
pot of gold there, one.
Exactly. I'm going to say I'm going to say a light at the end of the rainbow. There we go. So Denise, what are you working on now? Do you find you alternate between fiction and non-fiction, or is there a non-fiction project that you think appeals to you? You just find something and then think, actually that would make a good book, or it hasn't been told yet, like your the ladies, the 45 ladies. Yeah.
Basically, I've always got several drafts on the go at the same time. There'll be, for example, at the moment, I'm just researching something which might be going for the True Crime Awards the year after next, because I just came across this by accident about a young munition worker who was under such intolerable stress, and they made them work 6 days a week, and you couldn't get a day off. And so basically, when she found herself pregnant and then had a baby, and she was still having to work and she couldn't find anyone to look after the baby, she killed the baby, and she was sentenced to death but then reprieved. And because it's a local story, I thought I would look into that. But I just prepared my answers to your previous question, which was about the aspects you like most about writing.
Yeah.
So if I may, I'd like to say that just taking off from what Donna said, which is very true, how you feel wrapped in the warmth of the writing community, but I found it more with the true crime writing community. When I go to CrimeCon, which I try and go every year, I found that the most amazing experience, because sometimes when you go to a fiction writing festival and you go and introduce yourself and say, "Hi, I'm Denise Beddows, I'm a writer," and people go, "Oh yeah," and turn their back, and there's little cliques in the bar of authors, and I find that and sometimes you see authors trying to do each other down, and I don't like that bit of it. But there's just something about CrimeCon. Half the people there are law enforcement people. They're retired detectives, or they are forensic experts, that sort of thing. And the rest are authors or punters who just love reading true crime books. And I find the atmosphere there is so much different. It's so enjoyable. For example, the first time I went to CrimeCon, I walked into the bar where everyone was meeting. And Donald McIntyre walked over and said, "Oh, I saw you. You're staying in my hotel. Who are you and what do you do?"
Right.
And it was just great. He said, "Come and meet my circle." And there was Carl Howman, the actor who used to be in Brushstrokes, because the two of them have written a book together. And then I met Jackie Moulton, the Met Police first woman detective on whom Prime Suspect was based, the Helen Mirren role. And she said, "Oh, come and have a coffee with us." And then I met Jo Millington, the blood spatter queen, and she's my friend now. And these people have invited me into their fold. And I'm actually the co-convener for the Crime Writers Association non-fiction chapter. And I'm hoping to get some of these detectives to come in and speak to us. Well, we just meet online so people can sort of log in. But the other one is Steve Keogh, who does Is It in the Mind of a Murder Detective?
Right.
And he is the nicest man you could meet. Oh, and another one was the guy who caught Levi Belfield. I'm terrible on names. His name's just gone. I'm sure you know who I mean.
Yeah.
But I went over and I said, "Oh, hello, I'm Denise Beddows. I'm a writer. Nice to meet you." And he said, "Well, look," he said, "I'm sure you know all about me because Martin Clunes played me on TV. But," he said, "sit down and tell me all about you." And I thought that would never happen at a crime fiction
No,
festival.
no.
Um, and
Also,
so
I
I
think,
love that.
yeah, I think with fiction, there is still a barrier between being traditionally published and self-published. I think presumably less so with true crime. So CrimeCon, is that the one you go to in London every October? There's
That's the one,
a
yes.
Saturday, Sunday.
And like this year, they're going to have the True Crime Awards in June, which is held by the same organisers. And then October again will be CrimeCon. And they have the wonderful speakers. They not only have experts talking to you, but they have, for example, the mothers of young women who've been murdered, quite often by their partners. And you get some of these, like the woman, oh God, Sheridan Smith played her daughter. Oh, is it
Yes.
on?
I would say Shirley, but I don't know if it is
Yeah,
Shirley.
I can't remember
Yes,
now,
that
but
was quite recent, wasn't it? The
yeah, and
the
they
film.
come and talk to you, about their experience, and sometimes they'll be accompanied by the detective who investigated the murder, and you have some wonderful moments. I met Christopher Berry D. I'm dropping names, shocking here, I know, but Christopher Berry D. is an ex-British Marine who writes about serial killers, and he's been to America and interviewed every American serial killer in jail. And he was doing a double header at CrimeCon with Dr. Shyam Das, the criminal psychologist. And Shyam Das gave us this little spoken dissertation about some serial killer and about his background and his psychopathy, and went on about all these various factors in his life that caused him to kill. And then he said to Christopher Berry D, "But you've met him, what do you think?" And he said, "Now, mate, he's an effing lunatic." And it just brought the house down because, you have two completely
Yeah.
opposite things. But it's just, I also meet other wonderful people. Like there's two ladies I meet who work in a supermarket, and they save their pennies up all year to come and buy platinum tickets to get spoilt rotten at the Crime Con. And I meet them every year. And there's a woman who works for the RSPCA in Hampshire, and she works doing two jobs just so she can afford to come to CrimeCon. And the atmosphere is just better than anything I've ever experienced. And I think that keeps me writing true crime books because I want to keep being in that sort of organisation.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Does sound a bit like science fiction conventions I go to.
Yeah.
Very different from media cons. The science fiction conventions are, a collective of people who get together to entertain each other, sort of thing.
Well, I mistakenly took, it wasn't a mistake because we had a good weekend anyway, up to Nottingham. We went to a Comic-Con because Tim loves sci-fi fantasy, more sci-fi than fantasy. And he's heavily into that. You hear a whoosh, and I know he's on his iPad looking at the tests of the rockets, and Elton. I was going to say Elton John, Elon Musk, and NASA and Japan and all the latest what they're doing. And when the roads closed, there was excitement because there's going to be something coming out, and But I'm just wondering about technology, because Jill said I've written children's stories about a drone called Danny, 6 stories so far. I wrote them just before the Ukraine war, hence I've not published them yet. Do you find that technology plays a part, Donna? Do you use technology in your stories? Do you find that it's handy in some respects, but say, for instance, there are instances where we don't have mobile phone reception, and so, but it's a bit of a cop out to say, well, they couldn't phone for help because it's set in modern day, and so they would have a 5G or at least a 3G phone, and also whether it might date the novel. Because like when I'm editing, if I say don't say it's an iPhone 6 unless you need it to be old school, unless it's an iPhone.
Yeah, I mean, you date things, without realizing, because stuff moves so fast. And yeah, the CCTV cameras can be broken, and let's be honest, a lot of them are anyway and stuff. But you can't avoid everything. You've got to, unless you write back, and I'm lucky enough to just, I was born and went to school before the internet and stuff. So I do remember the time before. But, you can't ignore it, and doorbell cams are probably one of the biggest helps to police. But then, sometimes they don't work or they're not facing the right way. So, there are ways around them. But, every time that something happens, police are appealing for doorbell cams and dash cams. So, that's the new thing, isn't it? And then God knows what's going to come along next. But yeah, I don't think you can ignore the technology.
You've got a story's got to pass a believability test. I was editing a writer's story novel, and he had somebody without phone connection, and I said that's just not believable. And he said, yes, but in this particular pub in Dartmoor, you can't get any phone reception. And I said, I still don't believe it. By chance, I went on holiday in Dartmoor a couple of months later. So you went to the very pub. I walked into the pub and I went, this is the pub you described, because I got it straight away, And true enough, you couldn't get any phone reception. But it's not believable.
Yes.
So,
I mean, we do know that
you can't get phone reception. It just depends how good your network
I think it's part of the story, what story you're writing. If you're writing a comedy, you'd have no problems. You went to a pub, you couldn't get phone reception.
Isn't it lovely when the
thriller that turns on that fact? It might not be believable.
Yeah.
Isn't it lovely when you're writing and something in the real world happens? And I'll give you something. I've been having to pare down my collection of music books, because there's no point, as I've lost my vision, I make everything up. There's no point keeping all these lovely sheet music. And one was a Led Zeppelin one, and the guy goes, "Where do you live?" And I went, "Modbury." Oh, I based one of the chapters of my fabulous sellout art exhibition in Modbury at a gallery. Didn't name the right gallery, changed it, but the pub across the road was very prominent in it. How about this for a coincidence? The guy who bought the book, he says, I own the hotel pub across the road for the Brownston Gallery. I said, you're kidding me. He says, no. I said, here, read this chapter. He went, oh my God, that's our pub. I went, wow.
Put that in a book and no one believe you. I allow my editing clients 1 coincidence per novel, and that's it.
One?
Yeah.
So 1 coincidence, and it's got to be in the first quarter.
Right.
I would say.
My life is
something I heard at the weekend, though. I was away at Stockport Noir. I can't remember who it was now, but someone told a story. They wanted this drug. They wanted someone to have an illness because they needed them to take strong painkillers. So she messaged a friend, I think, who was a nurse, and asked what illness they could have, and then what drugs they would have a result. Someone read the book, recognised the symptoms. They'd been ill for over 9 years, and they got diagnosed as a result of that. And that was just, and it gave me goosebumps at the time, and gives me goosebumps now. How cool is that?
That's extraordinary.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh.
Wow, that's pretty good. I wrote a true ghost story without telling my children, and when there was when I changed the names of the actual people, but the whole thing was real. And my daughter, I said, you know, so and so and so. I said, really? She said, that's exactly how it happened, Dad. Now, I never mentioned it. This is a true witness that my young daughter at the time had seen the ghost of the child up in the attic. And as I'd written it from my perspective, she'd seen it from her perspective. So I went, this is a true story. There's a witness for you.
Lee, while you're on, tell
Oh,
us
hello.
tell us your least favourite aspect of your writing life.
It has to be the complexity of understanding marketing, which I don't. If I'm in front of an audience and I can sell, I love it. Kids coming up, if it's the children's bit, signing for books, absolutely fabulous. Hate the fact that since lockdown, it's so difficult to get into schools. That really is awful. But the whole marketing ploy, having been in sales all my life and seeing all these people trying to bombard you and sell you stuff, I just go, I don't trust you. I don't believe you. What can I do without spending money?
Well,
So I think the marketing minefield is potentially the worst thing possible.
I get 4 or 5 emails a day from various people. Either they're telling me they're J.K. Rowling, or Suzanne Collins, Hunger Games. And I pointed out that she didn't even know how to spell her own name. And she said, oh, that was a typo. And yet her email address is Suzanne Collins and then random numbers at gmail.com. And her footer is Suzanne Collins. And so I keep tweaking it every time I get something new. I keep tweaking it, but I have this very sarcastic email that I just copy and paste and send it back and then block them. So if they come through blocked, I know I've spoken to them again.
No, I hate it. Marketing.
I'm gonna leave Donna till last because I've taken her on to do some marketing. So I'm hoping to get some nuggets. So I'm going to go Lee, Beth, David, Denise, and then Donna. Beth, what is your least favourite aspect of your writing?
I was surprised at the number of scams that there are out there for authors. I didn't expect it, but yeah, whether it's on the publishing side or the marketing side, and the marketing side seems to be so much bigger. Um, it- uh, it's very unregulated, isn't it? It's kind of uh, there's um, there's more money in trying to make money out of authors than there is in being authors, and it just makes you wonder how the economics of the whole scene works. But anyway, apart from that, I think what I don't like is going over and over and over again. I mean, I edit short pieces. Even a haiku needs editing. Of course it does. But with a novel, it's so big. And I think I probably rewrote more of my novel than I did of my PhD. And the PhD, of course, had to be so rigorously researched. And I did fantasy rather than historical fiction so that I didn't have to research every sentence. But at the same time, just the pure volume of checking all the plot consistencies, uh, going through time and time again to improve aspects of every single scene. It was quite enormous.
Now, I must admit, I love pulling apart anybody else's books, but when it comes to mine, I would love to just write it, send it off to my editor Graham, and say, "You sort it out, and I'll move on to the next one." And then you get it back to me, and it's shining, and then I may read it again, but it doesn't. Of course, it doesn't work like that. David, the biggest challenge you find?
Marketing.
Yeah.
Really,
It wouldn't surprise me if all you're with the same. Yeah. And what do you
it's so
find
hard
that works?
What
Have you
marketing?
found? Yes. Have you found something that works?
The best technique I ever had was walking through the bar at a science fiction convention with a heavy box of books, and people took sympathy, pity on me, and bought a book. And then I had to sneak out and top the box up, so it still looked heavy.
It works though.
Yeah, it does. I keep saying that I can't turn strangers into readers.
Mm.
My books turn readers into fans.
Nice.
Because I did have an experience in the bar, and crossing the bridge. I'd just come out and was unloading, and I went to the bar, had a drink, sat down, and people started to come up to me and say, "Have you got a new book out?" And I went, "Yes." "Oh no, wait, it's not science fiction." And they would say, "Oh, I don't care, I'll buy it." They bought the book.
Oh, nice.
And I sold loads and loads and loads on the Friday. Very, very little on the Saturday and Sunday and the Monday. Right. So all my fans had just come up, bought the book automatically.
Nice.
It didn't involve any effort on my part. In fact, I was trying to say it's not science fiction, don't buy it.
Right. You just enjoy your reading,
that was
your
nice,
writing.
But the rest of the convention with the strangers, I had problems.
Yeah. Maybe it helps because you were in a bar situation and it was a Friday night.
It does sound like I'm in the bar all the time, doesn't it? Yeah. No, well, have a drink, buy a book.
Exactly.
It's much easier.
Yeah. Denise, can you remember how you got, how relentless you were getting your books to #1 and #2 in Amazon?
Yeah, and marketing. Marketing isn't my worst aspect, but it was a challenge, and I use all kinds of tricks. I mean, I probably mentioned before I go flyer dumping, which is where you get Vistaprint little A5 sized flyers with your book cover on the front and the blurb and where to buy it on the back. And I have a jacket that has pockets, just the right size, patch pockets to put these in. And I go into Waterstones, who don't stock my books, and I find books of the same genre, the same type, and I slip my flyers in the back of the book. It's got to be smaller than the books so that because Waterstone staff will bin them if they find them. Right. But the thinking is that someone is enjoying a book by a famous author, they get to the end and then my flyer pops up and they think, oh, there's another one, I'll buy that one. The other thing I do...
If you like the book you've just read, you'll like this one.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thinking. Yeah. So it's not illegal, but it is a little bit naughty. But the other thing I do is there's a company online called the Literary Gift Company, and they do a T-shirt which has 7 books with the spine showing printed on, and you choose what the titles and author name will be. Oh. So I have 7 of my own books on there. In fact, I've got 2 T-shirts with 7 different book titles of mine on there. And I wear it going to festivals and going round bookshops and anywhere I'm at the bar, bumping into people. My husband says it's the modern equivalent of a sandwich board and that I look pretty silly. But it did work because with another friend, I put together the Chiltern Kills Crime Writing Festival in Gerrards Cross. And I decided that day to wear a selection of my books. And I think on the T-shirt, and the top one was the Kohat Connection, which is set in Pakistan. And as I was walking around, I bumped into Wasim Khan and he said, why have you got Kohat on your T-shirt? That's in Pakistan. My parents came from there. So we got into conversation and he got his phone out and bought a copy of the book. So I know that makes me... My husband says you're the most awful show-off. How can you walk around with all your books on your chest, I thought, well, it works. Yeah. But no, I was going to say my worst aspect isn't marketing. It's pitching to publishers. And I'm so relieved now that I've gone back to self-publishing because I didn't have to pitch to Spellbound. Sumaira Wilson, who rang it, got in touch with me and said, I see you've written a book set in Pakistan. Nobody's done that. I want your book. And after I picked myself up off the floor, I went and accepted their contract. Wow. But to be honest, normally pitching to publishers where you have to go through that silly rigmarole of they send you a questionnaire and it says, name 5 other best-selling books that are just like yours. So you do that. Then the next question is, how is your book unique? And you think, well, you've just asked me how it's like everybody else's. So, what do you want? And then you'll send all this off and then they'll come back, as somebody did recently to me and said, oh, that's a really interesting story and I love the research you put into that, but it's not for us. Yeah. And I want to say, well, why? You published loads of books in the same sort of genre. Why not mine? You know, if you
Yeah.
liked it, why don't you take it?
Yeah.
And I did meet the lovely Toby Buchan, who runs Bonnier Books. I met him at CrimeCon, and I gave him a copy of my 44, The Forgotten 44. And he looked at it, he said, oh, I like this kind of thing. And he took it home, and 3 days later he sent me an email to say, yes, I'm loving the book. I'll get in touch as soon as I finished it. And a year went by and nothing happened. So I met someone else from Bonnier Books and I said, how's Toby Butcher these days? Buchan is Toby Buchan. And they said, oh, he retired a year ago.
Oh
So
no.
I took my book away into retirement and it was never heard of
Yes.
again.
Oh.
So pitching is my bugbear.
The first thing I ever had published, my mum kept saying, send stuff out so you get published, was a 60 word short flat piece of microfiction in Women's Weekly, and it was their monthly fiction feasts. And so I didn't know, they hadn't written to me to say that until after it had come out. And I was so delighted with this, and so the next month I went back, bought the next copy of it, and they'd stopped doing it. So my pizza payback had killed off Woman's Weekly's 60 word stories.
Oh, shame.
There we go. Donna, what's your least favourite aspect of your writing life?
Editing,
Is
no
it?
question. Hate
Yeah.
it. I mean, I was diagnosed with ADHD last year, anyway. So I find it difficult, firstly, to sit down and do it because I know that I'm going to hate it. Then once I start doing it, I hate it. So it's really hard. You know, I'm not, my ADHD can help me sit down and write the book because I'm enjoying it. But then when it comes back to it, I hate every second of it. Like literally, I hate it so much.
Right.
I mean, I started writing a book to not do my dissertation. So yeah, it's fun. It's a fun, but I hate it. I really have to force myself to sit down and do it.
That
It's
sounds almost masochistic.
I was going to say that it's that because you enjoy the writing, I never thought about it like this, that you enjoy the writing so much, and then you know that you're going to have to undo something that you really enjoyed. Psychologically, it means that you're undoing something. It's, I was going to say a bit like...
Yeah, but you're also making it better, though, aren't you?
You are, yeah, in theory,
Yeah.
yes, you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I'm never sure that I am. That's the trouble.
Right.
Oh, well, that's the trick of art. You have to spot when you're making it worse and stop.
Oh yeah, I haven't learned this yet.
No.
It just in general life when I'm speaking, I tend to get in trouble all the time because I don't learn. It takes me 4 or 5 times to really hammer the message home.
Well, despite me having done at least 1 million words, which I think was it Somerset Maugham said you have to write 1 million words to become a writer. I still, when I'm partway through or a lot of the way through a novel, and it's certain aspects of it are running out of steam a bit, and I know that the likelihood of what I'm writing will probably not end up staying in it. I then use the strike through option, and so it stays in there, and I carry on for a while, and but it just gets scored out. So I know that at least when I go back through it, I can then decide whether to keep it or not. But no, I don't enjoy editing my own.
I worked out my 1,000,000th word published was vestment.
Was it?
Yeah.
I haven't gone into that much detail, but maybe I would. Mine's probably, having done so many of my dog detective, it's probably my 1,000,000th word is probably dog. And that would be fine. I'd be quite happy to have my 1,000,000th word.
I was just pleased it wasn't and or the.
Well, that's true. Yes, an unusual name. Exactly. I have no clue. We've been an hour and a half.
Ooh.
So we're either probably thirsty, hungry, or tired. So, oh, we've lost Donna briefly. She's still with us. Just lost connection a little bit. David, final word. Best piece of advice you've been given or can give, if it's not the same.
Don't give up the day job. I did that. Just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Donna, if you can hear, pop a tip or something you'd like to share in the chat, and I will include it. Beth, final word.
I think I'm too new to be able to offer meaningful tips. Uh, yeah, I, I suppose it would have to be true to yourself, write for yourself, because you're going to be your own biggest critic.
Okay. It's all right. I've forgotten I'd switched off mute and video, so she can come back. Yes, Donna said, write a story you want to read. Hopefully she'll come back. Denise, a sage word of advice.
Well, I think I'm probably just repeating what others put, but I always tell people, write the kind of books you like to read. Don't try to please other people. And I think that's the joy of being self-published. You've not got an editor saying, like a writer friend of mine who has a publisher, the publisher's always saying, lovely story, but have your lead character be a woman instead of a man, change the whole thing. And he says, but that's not the story I wanted to write, And I said, well, that's the great thing about being self-published. You write the story you want to read. And whenever I pick up one of my books that I wrote a year or two ago and I start reading it, I think, oh, this is good, isn't it? Who wrote this?
And some people write something because they haven't been able to find it.
Yeah, that's true.
It doesn't exist, or at least not as published as yet. Lee.
I want to agree with what everybody's written there. I think you've got to be truthful to yourself. You also can't imagine you're the best seller in the world with one book out, because when my first book came out, I thought it was brilliant. No one treats you with anything. Oh, you got a book out. But when you get like 12 or 13 or 14 down the line, oh, you're an author. It's just a perception. So you have to live to that perception for other people. But at the same time, be true to yourself and enjoy what you do. Because if you don't enjoy writing, don't bloody do it.
Come across. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, my favourite statistics, and I've mentioned this numerous times before and have a podcast based on it called 300 Words a Day, is 300 words a day and I'm the biggest hypocrite because I don't do 300 words a day. 300 words a day is 109,500 words a year. So if you start today, you'll have your novel. And that's easy to say, oh yeah, I'll just write 300 words of my novel. And then sometimes you can't, and sometimes you won't, and sometimes you write a lot more. It really varies.
I read and talked to a lot of authors, and they would say 1,000 words a day is kind of typical if you really want to get somewhere. So I went out, this is going to date me horribly. I bought a typewriter. I'm going to be a writer. I bought a typewriter. It's so expensive, I have to use it. But I started trying to write 1,000 words a day and couldn't do it at all. So 500 words a day, I couldn't do that at all. 100 words a day. I'm the inventor of a drabble, which is a story of exactly 100 words. Let's do 100 words a day, which worked for me. But if it didn't work, 10 words a day or 1 word a day.
Yeah.
The first word's the hardest.
Right.
You switch off Facebook. You've got to get out of the sofa. You've got to switch your computer on, open the file. That first word's the hardest. Do that one. And then when you're there, you think, oh, I'll write another one as well. And before you know it, you hit 1,000 words.
Absolutely.
It doesn't happen straight off. It'll be a few weeks.
It's called practice.
You exercise.
It's like anything, a little bit, often, and your mind gets into it. If you don't, it's like drawing. If you don't paint for ages and ages, you go back. But as soon as you sketch 5 minutes a day with your mind goes into it. If you're writing and you're going to sit there and you're going to write because you've switched your computer on, your mind goes, okay, you can go now, because your blocks have all gone, and you take that first step, as you say, the first word.
Yeah. We
can all make up a million excuses why not to do it, though. That's the whole point. Even though we all write, you can go, oh no, oh no, that needs doing. Just do it.
Well, I would love to say I have the cleanest house in Aylesbury, but that's not even true. We do find other things that we can do if we don't do writing. Well, I stepped back a bit from editing because I was editing pretty much anything, and luckily I have 3 friends who edit everything I don't, and then some. They do the same as me. but I've now sort of limited myself to, or limited to, contemporary. So I kind of say 1960s onwards, because I can still relate to the 1960s-ish. And 1960s crime and women's fiction. And then I have friends who will do the others in order to write more. And then a week later, I decided to create a book festival. So,
yes. A good job, you're doing well.
I'm still working, but it's been wonderful. I don't regret a second of it. It's just absolutely wonderful. And I'm finding new people every day. It's just fantastic. And so a lovely note to end on, I think. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, David, Beth, Lee, Donna, Denise, and Helen, Jill, and Lisa. It was lovely to see you come in earlier on.